Could one country's loss be Canada's gain? The trade war between the U.S. and China has led to tariffs that have more than doubled the cost of American soybeans to Chinese buyers. And as China is looking to source the commodity from new markets, there are questions about whether Canada could step in and fill that gap. Ofer Barron is a professor of operations management at the University of Toronto. He joins us with more. Welcome.
Good morning.
The first time that President Trump put tariffs on China was back in 2017 in his first administration. Then the U.S. saw a 75% decrease in soybean exports to China that same year. So fast forward, if this trade war continues, when we're looking at tariffs that are over 100%, what impacts will this have on the commodity?
I think it's going to be a similar impact. The Chinese are going to reduce how much soy they are buying from the U.S.
China, we know, is already ramping up their imports of soybeans from other countries like South America, namely Brazil, which is the world's top soybean producer. So how could Canada look to capitalize on this situation?
Well, there are sort of two issues here. One of them, we can probably sell soybeans to China at somewhat higher prices than the market prices. On the other hand, the export from the U.S. is going to get into all other markets. So probably there's going to be some decrease in the price in other markets. You have to remember that the quantity that the U.S. is exporting to China, about 35 million tons, is 6 times what Canada is producing in a year. So we are not a huge player in this market. As you mentioned, Brazil and the U.S. kind of dominate this market.
So this would be one of the challenges for us to pivot and to step in and supply, to be a Chinese supplier.
No, I'm pretty sure we'll keep on selling to China and probably get somewhat higher prices, and we'll increase the quantity we are selling to China. But we don't want to stop our relationship with other countries we are exporting to, and we're going to have probably somewhat higher price on the Chinese market and somewhat lower price in other markets. So all in all, maybe a little bit beneficial, but not a huge opportunity, in my opinion.
China says it wants to partner with Canada to push back against what it calls American bullying. But at the same time, China recently imposed 100% tariffs on our canola and peas and a 25% tariff on our pork and seafood. So how much room is there for us to increase trade ties with China as long as these kind of penalties remain in place?
I think the main issue of trade is to negotiate it and to come to sensible agreements. We are a much smaller player than either the US or China, so our bargaining power with both of them is lower. On the other hand, we are still one of the largest commerce partner for the US, and we have some benefit over other countries, including the resources we have. So the idea is to sit down and negotiate and try to get a better deal for Canadians in terms of our import and export to both of these countries as well as to other countries. I think the one thing we learned from the uncertainty in the relationship with the US is that we need to diverse our international import and export. Like you do with any supply chain management, you don't want to have a single supplier, you don't want to have a single customer because you are exposed to a lot of risk. And we see this with the current actions of the administration south of the border.
Taking a closer look at the trade war between the U.S. and China, that's expected to lead to supply chain disruptions. When you have two major markets like that, that would be obvious. So with our economy being as closely linked right now as it is to the U.S., how would we feel the ripple effects of their trade war to us?
And certainly something that impacts. I think the issue is that there's also a trade war between Canada and the US to some extent. So there's lots of uncertainty. This is extremely unhealthy to economical ties between countries and between empires. And I think it's just a matter of responding carefully, not jump into quick steps, but certainly prepare options of additional suppliers and additional customers. In each market, it's different. The vehicle market, car market that you're showing pictures of is one thing. The soy market is food, especially for animals. There is another market, metal, rare resources that are required for high-tech industry, and so on. So each one of this industry needs to carefully see what's going on. With all of the uncertainty around, it's very, very hard to respond currently.
With remembering that all of those industries are also part of a singular economy, so what happens to one will affect the other, and that is a tricky negotiation. Ofer Barron, professor at the Rotman School of Management, thank you for your time this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.